Hey folks, how you doing? Back again so soon. Yes, I wanted to give you an update about the situation with crypto, Bitcoin, decentralized cryptocurrencies, etc. And it's not really talking about trading right now. Talking about or market forecast or predictions to the upside or the downside, anything like that. I'm talking about cryptocurrencies as they are and the kind of pressures they're facing, which may very well effectively eat them, right? Make them go at least partially the way of the dodo in a not very lovely sense. As you know, the dodo is extinct, right? Although some scientists claim they're going to bring it back or a hybrid of it. Anyway, the same might happen to crypto, or at least to some cryptos. What do I mean by that? Well, if you've heard me talk over the past couple of weeks, over even a bunch of years, but more recently in the last couple of weeks, in the run up to and during the Bitcoin 2024 conference that was in Nashville last week, and since then, you might have noticed that I don't really take kindly to all this notion of big banks, whales, financial institutions, and governments taking control of more and more of the available Bitcoin and Ethereum, for example. Right? Now, again, I know Solana's centrally controlled from the beginning, and it's a VC project, and you can tell me it's not a real crypto. That's fine. Just don't love it, don't fade it, just trade it, something like that, right? Just a good liquidity source asset for trading, not necessarily for holding. It doesn't really matter. But the Bitcoin has definitely lost its way and a main part of its primary purpose in being the quote unquote people's money, right? I say that because the vast overwhelming majority of the available uh, units of actual Bitcoins, right, and Satoshis, obviously, that make them up, are already in the hands of organizations with huge amounts of capital, right? Entities, whether it's whales or larger organizations or governments, doesn't really matter. And that means, yes, and I know there's a difference between certain whales and other whales. Not all of them are pro-government and all this. But when you have hundreds of millions or billions of dollars at your disposal, you're in a completely different league than the 99.9999% of humans who don't have those kind of resources. Right? So, yes, they may have their differences, but nevertheless, the very rich or the wealthy or the ultra wealthy are all about preserving that wealth, even if it's to the detriment of a project that could help the public at large. So, what are the alternatives, right? The Bitcoin is basically in the hands of huge whales and huge wallets. What's a poor average sucker to do? Is it too late to get into crypto? Is crypto dead effectively? Is Bitcoin dead? Is it useless? Well, at the moment, it's not useless. It's still very useful, actually. I would argue, in many ways, it's more useful than it's ever been because of the liquidity and the available services that are willing to work with it as a result. But that liquidity comes at a price. And that price is the control by these huge wallets. And I would argue that coins like Litecoin, which may or may not be fully controlled by big wallets yet. You can dig into that, find some more. So far, it seems to be certainly less controlled by centralized powers, but it's still very much controlled by big exchanges and the like. Ethereum obviously has its problems because more and more of that coin is going into the hands of big wallets and already is since its inception. Solana, like I said, is obviously fully centralized to begin with. XRP, it's debatable, but it's distributed fairly well. Still, there are some notable, very big players in that space. And the whole purpose of it is for banks to actually, right, to use it as a utility to exchange money from one currency to another for low fees and low transaction times and low overhead, less bureaucracy, etc. What about Cardano? Well, as reports have indicated, something like 91% of Cardano tokens remain in the hands of regular retail holders, which is great, right? What about BNB Chain? Well, BNB Chain is also a big corporate cryptocurrency created by Binance. And it's not, whatever they may say about it, their smart chain or their original chain, it's not really a fully decentralized token. You could argue that their initial one, BNB on ERC20, was more decentralized than the coins that they made since then, the various BNB flavors that they've created since then, because at least it was an ERC token. So ERC is running on Ethereum. Ethereum is a decentralized blockchain, et cetera, et cetera. But again, that Ethereum is less and less in the hands of retail traders and is already largely in the hands of big whales and centralized authorities, big banks buying up the Ethereum and the ETFs now. So, I'm not saying Cardano is necessarily the best cryptocurrency at this point, but I'm also not saying it's not, right? In terms of decentralization, being a real cryptocurrency, having a fairly low price per token, yeah, you can tell me, well, it's 25x the price it was when it was at 2 cents or whatever. Yeah, sure. But still less than $1 last time I looked. So it still allows people to acquire it at effectively, twice the amount of units as they might have dollars in their pockets. Last time I looked, I don't know what the exact price is. So the point is, even if it was 20 cents or 50 cents or 75 cents, if you can get at least as many Cardanos as you can dollars, for example, or Cardanos as you can euros, well, that's a metric that a lot of people can understand. It's like a 1-to-1 or even better than 1-to-1 ratio for access to an actually fully decentralized or, mostly decentralized cryptocurrency. I say mostly, I mean, just because, well, there's still 9% that are, already in the hands of, huge bags and central authorities and things like that. But can that change? Is it possible that they might become vulnerable to whales and central banks and governments wanting to take it over too? It's a possibility. For now, it's not happening because in terms of banks and governments having an interest in this stuff, right now they're mostly focused on Bitcoin and Ethereum, since those are the assets with the most liquid interests. Right? That's where most of the investors at brokerages are asking, can we buy this? And the brokers are saying, yeah, we have Bitcoin, we have Ethereum ETFs. And that's where they're getting most of the interest. And they're not seeing so much interest from other assets, or from into other assets from people who are interested in buying into ETFs. Does that matter? Well, it only matters in the sense that the people who run the brokerages and the banks and the governments and the regulatory bodies are less likely to push for if ETFs of these altcoins, if the altcoins themselves are not very popular at the moment. So right now what we have is a situation where crypto is essentially with its back up against the wall. Because very simply put, the biggest coins, where most of the liquidity exists, namely Bitcoin and Ethereum, are already controlled largely by central forces, governments, etc. And the rest of the coins, add up to a nice hill of beans, but it's still a hill of beans. It's not the mountain, right? If Bitcoin and Ethereum are, whatever it is, 70-80% of the market, that means that all the other coins combined, and there's millions of them, are 20-30% of the market at the moment. And that doesn't mean that there's no interest in these other coins or that there's no utility in them, right? In fact, you can still see plenty of good utility in Litecoin and or even in Tether, right? Zcash, whatever you might be using, not just Cardano, obviously. And a lot of places that accept those other coins I just named, BNB, whatever, they might not even touch Cardano, but they might let you use USDC or USDT on Ethereum or USDC on Tron or whatever it might be. A lot of them don't even do business with Solana yet, right? So for all its hype, it has yet to prove itself as a completely useful token and blockchain. That's not to say it isn't, but it still has yet to prove itself in many ways. And I'm not a Solana hater. I actually like Solana a lot. I just don't view it as a real cryptocurrency in the sense of all the positive aspects. Hey, buddy. How you doing? It's been a while, I know. It's all right. So, look, the long-term forecast is that we will continue to see increased adoption rates over time, over the years ahead. Right now, let's say anywhere from 1% to 3% of the world actually really uses crypto, even like on a monthly basis. Okay, that's not a lot of people. Maybe even quarterly basis will be generous and flexible. Okay, that's not a lot of people. So it still has quite a ways to grow in terms of adapting. Now I know there's 500 million crypto wallets, roughly, So roughly 1 in whatever it is, 32 people or something, have some amount of crypto in a wallet. Obviously, many of those wallets are completely empty, but some, the majority of them are holding some amount of some kind of crypto, and about a quarter billion, so about 1 in 64 people, have some Bitcoin in them. As I've mentioned these numbers before to you. But does that mean that all these wallets are active? No, obviously not, right? Many of them are, in fact, rather dormant. And that's still a very low number, right? 1 in 32, like 500 million people. Is it even that many? 1 in 16 people has a crypto wallet, and 1 in 32 has some Bitcoin. That's what the number is. Sorry, I went the wrong. Yeah. Anyway, so 500 million people, obviously, and there's 8 billion people on Earth. So 1 in 16 people has, some kind of crypto in a wallet. So we're talking not more than 6 or 7%. It's not a lot. There's still a long way to grow. We're still sub 10%. So there's still far more than 10x to grow to reach full adoption. But I would argue that we're actually probably not going to see full adoption for an incredibly long time. Part of the reason for that is one simple fact. There's a thing called WeChat in China, right? And Tencent and all those things, all their connected systems. And in China, they use these apps distributed through the CCP, the Central Chinese Communist Party, obviously, which is centralized power to the max, right? To the max, yeah. So, and they very much control what people do with their assets. And so they basically made it almost, not mandatory, but so easy that anybody living in China almost by default uses the system to pay for just about everything. They use WeChat to pay for things, and they don't need Bitcoin the way they perceive it, because they're disincentivized to use Bitcoin. Now, there are some people in China, obviously, and it's not a small number, but relative to the size of the population it is, there are people in China who like Bitcoin and who are able to hold it and buy it and sell it. They're just not allowed to do like intraday scalp trades, right? They can't trade like 1,000 times a day or whatever, right? And generally speaking, a lot of miners left China because of all these crazy back and forth flip-flopping laws and rules and regulations that disincentivize them from being there. So what does that mean? Well, that means that a significant portion of the world, despite however many people are using crypto in China, a significant portion of the world, which actually could really benefit from something like Bitcoin, is being locked off from it as much as possible. Because again, the government of China does not want people to be completely into Bitcoin. They're happy to have certain people into it. If you're a super rich Chinese person or really wealthy Chinese person or company or whatever, they're happy to have these companies that they control fully and these people that they control really, really very much have some access to this, or even have full access to it, because they want those people to continue to be good Chinese patriots amassing wealth that the Chinese government ultimately controls. So they're happy to have people in their elite classes touch it, obviously, just like there are in North Korea. The government uses Bitcoin as its main money supply at this point in terms of inbound revenue for illegal or other services and goods that they sell to the outside world, right? And they've amassed a significant number through crime and through also non-crime events, deals, but mostly crime. That's been acknowledged. They use Bitcoin for that and other crypto for that, right? They've been known to steal quite a bit of it by socially engineering people to get their wallet info, etc., or hacking into people's computers, finding passwords saved on devices that shouldn't be saved on devices, etc. So there's another country where it's not likely to be very widely used by the general public, right? And there's a lot of countries where even if everyone has a phone and a computer or whatever, they don't necessarily have the incentive to have a Bitcoin wallet or a crypto wallet for other tokens. Now, what does that mean for crypto long term? Well, let's say a quarter of the people adopt this new technology, right? 2 billion people out of 8 billion. Currently, there's about 500 million that have anything in any kind of wallet. Maybe twice as much know about it, or three, maybe a couple billion people already know about it. But that doesn't mean they know the ins and outs. They might have just heard about it in passing and kind of laughed it off or thought it's not necessary to their life. It's irrelevant. They're not interested. They think it's a scam or whatever. So they don't really pay attention, but they know it exists. Is it possible that we get 25% of humanity to use crypto? It is entirely possible. What would that do? Well, if 1 in 4 people is using it, it would by far be, one of the largest forms of transacting values on Earth. If not already the largest. It wouldn't maybe be the largest, but it would be right up there. Right? We know already Bitcoin by itself is like something like the asset with the 9th highest market cap on Earth, right? And that's just Bitcoin. So if you add up all the rest of it, maybe it's around number 8, as if you look at it just all of crypto. But we'll just stick with number 9. Not bad. Still in the top 10 already after 15 years coming from zero. Right? Position didn't exist. So what does that mean? What does it say? Hey, Indonesia. Shout out to Russell Crowe. Okay. Where am I going? I'm walking around between places. In the fields and the trees. I'm having a nice time. Walking around in the areas where there's a lot of tension. Can you please send me... Okay. All right. I hope everybody's well and you're all having fun in the comments area. Thank you for the comments. If you have any questions, feel free to ask. Like real questions, obviously, not just jokes. I do love jokes, though, so keep those coming, too. So the general forecast is, okay, if we can get a quarter of the people on Earth to adopt actual use, that would be 4 times as many people as have just wallets now. Okay, so if 4 times as many people actually use it on even a quarterly basis to start with, and then maybe a monthly basis after that as the next goal, that would mean that you'd actually have more than 1 billion wallets, or more than 2 billion wallets, because, again, a quarter of the people actually using it, not just holding some, would mean that more than a quarter of the people actually have some. Right? Because remember, a lot of people just buy it and then just forget about it. They're not active users. They may have some, but they're not active users. They're passive users. What's an active use? I don't know, anything. Could be, purchasing anything with crypto, right? Trading with crypto, paying for goods or services in crypto, making business, making a business that accepts crypto, or accepting crypto in your business as a form of payment, allowing citizens to pay taxes, which already exists in some places, allowing citizens to use it as legal tender, which already exists in some places, to pay for your coffee, right? To pay for your lunch, your dinner, whatever it might be, your car insurance, your TV bill, your internet bill, all these things. These things would increase the value overall of the market significantly because it would mean that there's a mass adoption for this technology because of an actual high amount of use cases and a high supply of it available and a high demand using it. If those three things come together, you have quite a nice market. Now, of course, in markets, you really just need supply and demand, right? But to have the supply, you need to have a good use case for there to be a demand, because you can make a billion things nobody cares about and nobody will buy them. But if you make a billion things people want because there's a good use case or there's a good demand for some other reason, then yeah, people will buy it, right? So yeah, it is about supply and demand, but supply without the use case in this case would not necessarily create a high demand. And as much as I love NFTs and ordinals and runes and things like that, I'm not sure, in fact, I'm pretty confident that those kind of collectible items are not going to be the be-all and end-all for creating high demand, right? Yes, they may create some, they already have arguably, but it's really minimal, right? The real demand is going to come when the use cases are giving people real-world uses that they can do to make their day-to-day life more convenient. That's when you're actually going to see real demand pushing everything up, because the supplies of most of the good coins are obviously limited. So as the demand goes up and the supply comes down, obviously the price will tend to go up. Do I think that all of the coins should be going to the moon? No, I don't. I think it's critically important that some don't, and that they stay relatively cheap, but that they still be good projects with good code and good security and good everything else, so that we can onboard people easily without, ridiculously high costs. So that's my take on that. I hope you all have a lovely day doing whatever you're doing. And may the good times be with you all. And you all have peace and prosperity and lots of health and joy and mirth in your life. If you like my ramblings, do the things, please. The the things. All right, that's it for now. Take care, folks. Cheers.